Hello everyone, and welcome to our second live session for DES 305, Web Portfolio Design. I am Shannon McNamara, your graphic arts instructor, and I just want to welcome you back to our second session for week one. Let's take a look at our agenda for today. I'll pop over into the course and check out the announcements, and we're also going to spend a lot of time in Adobe Muse today. I'm going to be starting a website right from the beginning, basically. We're going to add a slideshow in, and we'll also do some third-party plugins. And I'll show you a third-party plugin that is a slideshow, which is pretty cool. And I'll show you the basic widget that is in Muse that has a slideshow component to it. All right, so just a reminder about due dates. All assignments and assessments are due by Saturday for full credit. I will accept work that is up to 1 week late, but there will be a 20% deduction on the grades. That means you're going to start with a B. So try to get that work in on time. You must obtain permission from me to turn in any assignments after the 1 week deadline for a grade. And communication with me is definitely key. If your work is going to be late, please make sure that you're sending me an email and letting me know ahead of time. Emailing me on Saturday night at 10 p.m. is not a sufficient time frame to not lose the deduction. However, if you email me a couple of days ahead of time and let me know what's going on, I can work with you. Week 4 assignments cannot be turned in late. And your original discussion post is due by Wednesday at midnight, and you need to also respond to 2 of your fellow students' discussion posts by Saturday at midnight, and post on at least 2 different days of the week. And late discussion posts will not be accepted past the Saturday deadline for that week. All right, so let me hop over into the course. I can't remember off the top of my head if I posted any announcements for today, but we shall see. Oh yes, I did. All right. I posted these useful links. I thought that this might help you out. So there's a link to Citation Machine, a link to Adobe Color, a link to that Muse tutorial, and then a link to that 20 years of web design that I showed you in the live session yesterday. So if you want to go in and read up on that yourself. And also the live session from yesterday and the slides from yesterday are available in the announcements as well. I think that's it for announcements for today anyways. But you know, make sure they should be sent to your email when I post an announcement. You should also get an email showing that there was an announcement. And if you have that Canvas app, it will pop up on your screen when there's an announcement as well. All right, so yesterday when I was explaining the header and the footer arrows not showing, I just wanted to put in a screenshot for you showing how to fix that in case if you accidentally hit the combination of quick keys and make the header and footer arrows go away. So it's under View, Show header and footer. Basically, that's where you would turn that back on if those arrows are not showing. So we're going to talk a little bit about widgets today. Widgets are those little doodads that you see on a website. They're often in the sidebar, especially on WordPress sites. I find that you find a lot of sites that are built in WordPress that have a lot of widgets that show up in the sidebar or show up in the footer. They perform one simple function and don't take up much room while they're doing it. A more textbook definition of a widget is a standalone application that can be embedded into third-party sites by any user on a page where they have rights of authorship. So a web page, a blog, a profile, or even a social media site. Some common examples of widgets are the Twitter widget. A Twitter widget usually displays 3 to 5 of your most recent tweets and also provides a link to your Twitter profile so people can easily follow you. The widget pulls information from your Twitter account and updates the feed to the widget in real time. You can have music player widgets. You've probably seen a lot of these on musicians' pages. The music playing widgets come in all sizes and shapes, but they all serve at least one function, letting people listen to your songs. Then there's a calendar widget. There's a wide variety of calendar widgets out there, but the idea is the same, to let people know about your upcoming shows or events. And then there's also HTML code snippets. These are widgets in which you can add your own code, giving you complete control. You can display images, add links to those images, embed videos, and do a ton of other stuff if you know some basic coding, which is much easier than it sounds. And then there's also a mailing list widget. This lets people enter their email address into a small form and join your mailing list. Yesterday, I was also discussing how you can use public domain images for your assignment for this week. So this is a link to explain public domain resources, and there is, let me open this up for 1 second. There is a couple of resources right within this link for images that you can use. So public domain mark enables works that are no longer restricted by copyright to be marked as such in a standard and simple way, making them easily discoverable and available to others. You are still responsible for checking the copyright status of images, and Wikipedia has a list of many websites that offer images that are copyright free and public domain. All right, so let's go and get into Muse and put together a site based off of what we need to do this week. So I'm going to open up the assignment. And like I said, I'm not going to use the verbiage that you need to use for your assignment and the Independence logo and all of that, but I'm going to build the site that has the same criteria that you need to follow. So let me scroll down to part 2, creating a web page in Muse. All right, so one of the things that might be helpful, if you ever, just one of my kind of tips and tricks, if you're on a Mac and you have the Notes program, what I would say is, you know, try to create a note and paste in all of the things that you need to do for your assignment. And then turn it into a checklist. Come on. Really? There we go. All right. And that way, when you finish things, you can kind of check it off and make sure that, you know, you haven't missed anything. This is a, you know, just a good little tip for, you know, whenever you have to do an assignment that has a ton of stuff. I like to sometimes make myself a checklist, so that way when I'm in Notes, I can just, you know, check it off when I'm done. You know, name your homepage, and Muse, create and design a master page based on the design you created in Photoshop or Illustrator. So what that means is you're going to be following what you did in part 1 of the assignment. So I am going to be following what I did in part 1 of the assignment. Which is this website. Be easier if I just open it up in Photoshop. So you might want to leave your mock-up in Photoshop open just so you can kind of bounce back and forth between it. When I had set this up, I set it up as 960 pixels. So I want to have a website that is basically 1,200 pixels wide. Because remember how I was looking, I was following my slide from yesterday. If you want a website that's about 1,200 pixels wide, you should make a mock-up that's about 960 pixels wide, and it was this whole conversion thing. So that's what I'm basing this off of. I'm going to leave my website up just so I can kind of watch what I'm doing. I'm going to set up my header area and my footer area in my master page, which, as you can see, I should be creating and designing a master page based on the design that I created. And then I'm also going to make my home page. This will be my home page. I'm going to create a second page. I'm not going to name it degrees. I'm going to name my second page portfolio based off of what I've done here. And I'm going to add an interactive menu. I'm going to include the footer, and I will locate 4 images. I am actually going to use 4 of my own images that I happen to have and place those on the page. And then I also will add some text to my page as well, or some lorem ipsum, either way. And then I'll name my file appropriately, and I will show you, how to do kind of a save as to name this file for the assignment, and then a save as to name the file for the assessment. Oh, no worries, no worries. I'm glad you were able to make it. Always happy when I see people. And if you want, you can work along with me. It's really up to you, or you can just watch and then kind of work along at home. Well, at home afters. Oh, nice, nice. Yes, I just inhaled dinner myself and ran downstairs. All right, so let's get into Muse. We're gonna start right from the beginning, hopefully. You know what, I'm gonna just quit out and start over. I can already see a circle, which is never a good sign. I don't wanna run into any issues while I'm showing you things, so I'll just restart the program. There we go. It's running a little slow today. That's never a good sign. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to start right from the beginning. So I'm going to click New. And you'll notice that it says New Site, and you have a couple of options here. So open up your advanced settings, and you want to stick with fluid width. That's so that way your page can be resized. When it comes to columns, I would probably put in about 12 columns. This is going to just give you some visual guides that you can follow. Even if you don't follow all 12 of them, it kind of gives you a grid to start off with, which will make your life easier when you're trying to place things and keep it organized. I'm going to change my max page width to 1200. And I'm going to leave the minimum width and the minimum height where it is. And also just going to leave for right now my margins where they are. I want to have a sticky footer. What that means is your footer will always be at the bottom of the page, and it will always stick to the bottom of the page. And these other options, I'm going to leave them exactly how they are. I'm going to leave my resolution as standard. There is a high definition setting. However, that will make your images really large. So, that all goes into the load time of your page. And honestly, there's no need for that. So just leave resolution as standard, leave sticky footer checked. Leave your min width and your min height where they are. Those are fine. And your max page width at 1200 is fine as well. And you might, like I said, you might want to do something like 12 columns, just so that way you kind of have a grid that's already set up on your page. And then click OK. And this is going to bring you into the planned dialog box. So you have plan, you have design, you have preview, which will be a whole lot of nothing at this point. And then you also have publish, which will sign you into Business Catalyst, and that's how you would publish your site. So we're gonna start off, and whenever you go to preview, it's gonna open up a preview tab, so you might have to just kind of close those tabs out. So here's how I think you should set up your site. As soon as you create the site, do a file save site and put it again in your mod 10, make a folder for mod 10, make a folder for, you know, DES 305, and I'm going to call mine working site DES 305 and create. And I'm going to name this working site Pixel 8, and that's fine. So this is my site that I'm always going to be working in, and then everything that I need to upload, I am going to do a save as and upload that save as. So you'll notice, as I was saying, that you have to name your Muse file, DES 305 assignment 1 part 2, your first and last name for the assignment. And then you have to do more work on it in the assessment and name it something different. And you really shouldn't have multiple versions of your site. So we want to work out of this working site, and then each time it's done and we have it ready to upload, we'll just do a file save site as and put it in, you know, week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4, whatever week it is that we are working in. That's, I think, going to be the best solution for this. All right, also what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to keep all of your images with your site. So make an images folder and keep it in the same folder as your site folder. You know, so that way you're not trying to locate everything all over the place. It's all about being organized with your files. This will make your life so much easier in the long run. And when you do upload your site, I believe it only asks for the Muse file. No, it says to zip and submit the Muse document. So you're going to want to upload those images as well. Which might make this a little bit big, but that's okay. Yeah, that's going to make it a little bit big. If you run into any problems uploading with your images, just let me know, and I'll try to come up with a workaround for you. All right, so I have my working site and my images. They're all inside of my DES 305 working site folder that I just created. I already have my images ready to go, so I'm going to put them into my images folder just to kind of make my life a little bit easier. And I also have already downloaded the widgets I'm going to use, but I'll show you again how to get in there and download those widgets. Grab this stuff and move it over. And you might want to put your widgets in a widgets folder, you know, again, just kind of so you don't have all these files all over the place. You know, the only file that should be out is your Muse file. It'll make your life a lot easier when you're going in, you're trying to find something and you're like, I know I downloaded a widget. If you put it in a widgets folder, you clearly know where it is. All right. So it will automatically create a home page for you. And this says name your page homepage. If you want to leave it just as home, that's okay, because if you rename this homepage, it's going to call it homepage in your navigation. And I think that that's a little bit weird. You know, we're used to seeing the button that just says home to get us back to the home page. We're not used to seeing a button that says homepage all typed out. So I am completely okay with you just leaving this as home. Oh yeah, you know what? Honestly, my system of keeping my files together, I learned that at one of my jobs, honestly. We were required to set up our folders at that job a certain way. So when you opened up the job folder, the only thing you saw for a file was the InDesign file. All of the art was in a folder called art. All of the fonts were in a folder called fonts, and anything else supporting was also in a folder. So it made it so much easier when people had to go in and say fix an ad, where they navigated exactly to the folder where the ad was where the ad lived. All of the art that went with that ad was right there. All of the fonts that went with that ad was right there. And the PDF that went with that ad was right there. So it kept everything extremely organized, because we all worked on different shifts, and you might not be working with the person who had touched that ad before you. And if they didn't put that artwork where it belonged, then that ad would go out late. So this is something that you'll definitely run into when you're out in the field. So it's good to get into the habit of doing that now, because believe me, your bosses and your coworkers will be so ecstatic to see that you keep everything organized. If you don't get the option to save a folder, all right, so let's say you do file save your site as, you might only see something like this. What you need to do is hit this down arrow, and that's going to give you all of your options. And then new folder is located over here in the left sidebar. And you can then also navigate exactly to where you want to put things. But I know a lot of times it just defaults and you kind of only have a few set options. So this down arrow gives you all of those other options, so you can figure out where you want to save things. And what I end up doing is I drag folders that I use all the time into my favorites in the sidebar. So that, oh, no worries. You know what? I love to show people tips and tricks that I've run into. So if you see me doing something and you're like, wait, mine doesn't look like that, just let me know, and I will definitely kind of show you how to set it up differently. Like, I always tell people in their InDesign courses, and I know we're doing Muse, but this might help somebody else out too. Before you start a new document in InDesign, you can go in, and I'll just show you this, because somebody showed me this a couple of years ago, and I was like, how did I not know this? This just basically saved my life. I like to work in inches, and InDesign defaults to pixels and picas, and it drives me bananas. So before you start a new document in InDesign, if you just go to InDesign preferences and go to units and increments, you can change it to inches and points and just hit OK. And then as soon as you hit new document, it will default to inches instead of being in points and picas. So just another little tip and trick for people when they get into InDesign. So, these are all things that you just kind of run into after years and years and years of doing things, and you're like, oh, look at what I just noticed. So anyways, back into Muse though. So we're in the plan phase, and this is a good, before we start making our master page and everything else, we're going to make our 2 pages. So you need to make a page, again, that's your home page and a degrees page. So you want everything to be on a specific hierarchy. I am going to make a home page and a portfolio page. And you'll notice when you select your home page that you get all of these different plus signs either on the left, the right, or the bottom. So because you're starting out with your home page, you want your home page always to be the first page of your site. So if you want to make another page that's on the same hierarchy as your homepage, like your degree page should be, you're going to click the plus sign on the right hand side, and it's going to add another page right next to it, and you would name that page degrees. I'm going to name mine portfolio. Now let's say that I want a page that only navigates off of my portfolio page. So let's say that I wanted a page that's just full of slideshows, but you can only get to it through, it's kind of off of my portfolio page. Then I would make a slideshow page down here. This would kind of be a random thing to do, but if, let's say you had a portfolio page and you had print pieces, and then you also had web pieces, and you wanted, you know, people to be able to navigate to either your print work or your web work, that would be a better use of doing this, doing a page off of this. And then you'll notice that when I set up my navigation widget in my master page, it's going to have all these links exactly where they're supposed to be located. So I'm just going to kind of leave this like this. So, I want to create my header first, and I'm going to do that in my master page in Muse. So I want to take a look at my mock-up that I did yesterday, and right here, this is all the information that I have that I want located in my header. So I'm going to put in this nice big image at the top. I'm going to put in my Pixel 8 logo, and then I have my navigation. And you'll notice my navigation shows a contact page. Eventually, I will have a contact page, so I can add that in now, just so that way it shows up in my navigation, and I can kind of place my navigation with the amount of pages that there will be, you know, because there's going to be a certain length to my navigation. So I'm probably going to start, I like to start at the top when I'm creating my header, and then work my way down to the bottom of the header. And then the same thing, you know, start at the top of my footer area and then work myself down to the bottom of the page. But I always design my header first. So I'm going to go into my master page, and I apologize if you can hear my daughter crying upstairs. She's having a tough week this week. Yes, that would be like, well, your hero image is usually, all right, your hero image is usually your first image in your body area. This is kind of just like a header image. I guess some people might call it a hero image because it is a big image, but most people place the hero image and hero text in their body. I just happen to have a big image that's going to run at the top of my web page. All right, so when I get in here, this is my header area. This is what Muse defaults to for a header. It's about 50 pixels high. So you can tell based on, you know, what I have mocked up in Photoshop, that this header is, that amount of space is clearly not going to work. So I'm going to have to adjust it. And what I do is I can just drag this, the bottom arrow down, and I'm probably going to need about 200, maybe even 300 pixels. I kind of have a big header area. So I'm just going to drop that at 300. And the one thing that I don't like about Muse is you can't, you know how sometimes like if you can't get your rulers exact in, you know, Illustrator or InDesign, you can select them and then up in the XY coordinates, like put them where they need to go. For some reason, Muse doesn't have that option. So you kind of have to just like zoom in and try to get it if you need to be exact. And you'll just, there we go, 300 pixels. All right. So it's one of those things where I wish Adobe would get on the same page and have everything work the same way, but alas, they do not. And I'm going to open up my CC library because I added all of my images in yesterday to my DES 305 folder, and I have 2 of those folders. So I'm going to just drag this out. And I did name it hero image after all that. And so I can just drag right from here and plop that image down. And you can see this image is rather large. So I am going to edit. I kind of want to, I don't want to crop it in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into Photoshop and I'm going to crop this image because I can't, I did this on purpose because I wanted to show you guys this. If I start to drag this, you know, up and off of the page, it might get a little bit weird. It extends my header up. Yes, I did show this yesterday. Yes. So if you didn't get a chance yesterday to watch the live session from yesterday, that's okay, because we're kind of doing completely different things today. But it might be a little bit confusing because some of the stuff that I'm referencing I did do yesterday. So I kind of want this to be cropped kind of right here. So I'm going to manually crop this in Photoshop. And I set up about, I'm going to crop it to about 200 pixels, we'll say, in Photoshop. So let me, well, I have a lot of image right there. Open up, I'm gonna make a new document. Set up like this for now. Drag that image in. And change this to pixels so I can see what I'm doing. And let's check and see where 200 pixels is. Yeah, that's, you know what, honestly, I don't need an image any larger than that. That kind of works. Let me just kind of center the boxes in there. All right. Now copy this, I'm going to just drag it. Oh. Rename my layer. Where's my layers? Rename my layer Hero 2. Oh, come on. And save it apparently, because it won't link back because I've already got one in there. Delete. All right, file, save as. Right? No. I've got two working sites. Here we go, working site, I'm gonna say. All right, so this is header image. I'm gonna save it as a JPEG. And I'll put it in this homepage folder. And go back into Muse. All right, I'm gonna delete this one. So I don't have this in my library. So I'm going to place it just like I would place an image if I was in InDesign. So I can go to File, Place, which is the other way that you can place images in Muse. And I'm gonna go to the folder where I have everything saved. And header image is right there. And place it right up at the top. So two different ways that you can place images right within Muse. And this is kind of a good segue to go over these, I think there's 7, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, oh, 8. The 8 different tools that you have over here, which I think it's good that there's only 8 tools. It's not so overwhelming, the toolbar in Muse. So you have your black arrow selection tool, which works exactly the same as all of the other Adobe programs. You have a crop tool, which yes, I could have cropped that image right in here, but you know what? I wanted to crop it in Photoshop. Sometimes, I don't know. I like to use programs for what they were designed to do, and I feel like image alteration should be done in Photoshop. I'm kind of an Adobe purist in that way, I guess you could say. You have your text tool, which has type and vertical type. You have a rectangle and ellipse tool. You have a rectangle frame tool and ellipse frame tool. You have your hand, just move your hand around, zoom, and this anchor link. So what this does is, you know, I'm going to go over the anchor link when we get to the homepage, and I'll show you by doing, basically. I think that'll probably be the easiest way to do this, is to show by doing. You can, what it basically is, like, let's say I have a word here that says photography, and then somewhere down on the bottom of my page, I have all my photography. I can turn the word photography into a link. And when somebody clicks on that, on the word photography, it'll scroll my page down to where that anchor is, where all my photographs are. So it's actually quite cool. Yeah, it's a really cool option. So you can kind of get people to kind of zoom around your page that way. All right, so again, I'm doing all of this, all of my header and all of my footer in my master page. You'll notice I'm working in my master page right now. So everything that I've done, I can go into my working site, and you'll notice it's on all of my pages now, because each of these pages is linked to my A master. So I've got my header on this page, but same as, you know, master pages in Illustrator, I can't accidentally select it when I'm working. Makes my life so much easier. All right, next thing I have on that page, let me just close this out, is my Pixelate logo. So I'm going to go into my library, and I'll drag and drop my Pixelate logo. Right there. And I might have had it a little bit smaller. And in Muse, when you go to resize, you don't have to hold down the shift key, which is pretty awesome. So you can just resize it, and it scales it proportionally. Very helpful. And then the next thing I have is my navigation, which is actually a widget. But I'm going to kind of do some of my designing first. Yes, exactly. Thank you, Muse. If only, I seriously do not understand why Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign do not default to scaling things proportionally. How much easier would that make our lives if they did that? You know, it's like the Muse design team was like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to do things right. So, you know, thank you, Muse. All right. Now, one of the things I am going to do, which is going to seem a little bit weird, but you'll definitely see why I do it, is I'm going to take my rectangle box tool, and behind my image here, I am going to, well, first I'm going to have to place it on top. I'm going to just place a black box, and then I am going to arrange and send this to the back. So when my page displays on my, you know, in my browser, this image is only 1200 pixels wide, and my page is going to display a lot wider than that. So what I have is that black box is going to resize to the edge, so that way it's not just kind of a blank, you know, on either side of my image. It'll be a black box, which you can see it kind of will blend in the way I have my image gradient off to black on the edges. So let me see if I can preview that for you. See? So I'm kind of thinking through, you know, what my design is going to look like, because not, you know, web pages are definitely wider than 1200 pixels, or whatever your width is. So that's another little trick that I learned from doing things a couple of times. And then you'll notice that I have this that subtle background that I downloaded yesterday in the background of my body area. It's actually in the background of my entire browser window. So I am going to add that in my master page by using this browser fill option. So up at the top of the page where it says browser fill, if you click on the little drop down box, you can pick a color to be your browser fill. So let's say I wanted it to be, it defaults to white. Let's say I want it gray or blue, or I want to create a color. That's how I would add a fill color. But to fill with an image, you actually have to click on the word browser fill, and that will expand these options. And within there, you can actually do a gradient if you wanted. You can add an image. That's what I'm going to do. Let me see where I put that image. I don't think I moved that over from yesterday. Trying to remember where I did that. I might have not saved it on its own. That sounds like something I would have done, which is fine. I'll just re-download it. So, subtlepatterns.com. It'd be quicker for me to re-download it than to try to get it out of that Photoshop file. This is the one I had downloaded. And here it is, regal.png. And I will just drag that into my images folder. And here it is. So again, browser fill, add image, select your image, make sure it's, tileable. Oh, good. And you'll notice it tiles that right in my background because I have fitting tile. All right, and this is a good part to save. And I will say this about Muse, save and save often. I always say this in all of my courses, but it's kind of, I have to remember this myself because I was, when I found out I was teaching Muse this month, I was like, oh, well, all right, you know what? I haven't been in Muse in a month or two, so let me pop in there and give myself a little bit of a refresher before I teach this course. And I'm just working along, doing what I'm doing, and Muse crashed on me, and I didn't save. And I was like, what I always tell my students, save and save often. So, every time you kind of do a couple of things, make sure you do save your site. All right, so as you can see, it's, it is coming along, starting to look like my mock-up here. Now is probably a good time. Like I said, I have my navigation next, but I'm going to actually kind of do that last so I can go over all of the different options for making your navigation look different in different states. So I'm going to kind of leave that off right now, and I'm going to pop down into our into the footer, and I'll do the footer first because the footer is a little bit more basic. So your footer here defaults to about 75 pixels. So if you want to resize your footer, what you can do is drag this top bar up a little bit. I want mine to be about 100 pixels. So I'm going to see if I can get it to stop it. Oh, I'm going to have to zoom in. There we go. And you'll notice it doesn't leave me a lot of body room, but that's okay because Muse is going to add room to the body of your website as you start to place elements in it. So you don't need to worry about the amount of spacing you have in your master page in between where your header and your footer is. Just leave yourself enough space that you can add those elements in and you can visually see where the elements are supposed to go. All right, so my footer is going to have a black background. So again, I'm going to go over, I'm going to take my rectangle tool and plop down a rectangle. I'm going to, up here in the top bar, fill it with black. And you'll notice it says resize. I want it to stretch to my browser width, so that way no matter what size my browser window is, that footer bar and the black bar stretches and responds to the width of my browser window. All right, so what did I have down here? Home, portfolio, and contact. All right, and then I also have my social media icons. All right, so I'm not going to do the navigation right now, but I think that this is a good time to do the social media icons, which I'm going to use Muse's widget library to do those. And I'm kind of going to pull the widget library out so that way you guys can watch while I do this. I'm going to go to the social one. I'm not going to use the Adobe Muse badge. So do you always click to resize to browser every time you design the footer? Nope, it actually defaults to that. At least mine does. You know, double check it, but mine defaults to resize to the browser. It seems to default to that when I'm working within my header area and when I'm working within my footer area, but I don't believe it defaults to that when you're working within the body area. All right, so I am going to add a Twitter follow. I'm going to drop that in. And you'll notice how it says follow at Adobe Muse. Isn't that cute? So if you forget to change it to your own Twitter handle, it will just send all of your users to the Adobe Muse site. I, however, am going to change it to my my Twitter handle, Pixel 8 Design, which sadly I have not uploaded or not added anything to in a very long time. So it shows follow Pixel 8 Design, 338 followers. That's great. I'm also going to add in YouTube. I think this used to be an icon, but now it's a video, and I don't want to do that. That is, yeah, no. They used to just have the icon here. All right, so I'll add the icon from my library. And then they do have a Facebook like and a Facebook follow. However, what I did is remember yesterday when I was showing you the free widgets, I did download this Facebook like button as a free widget, and I downloaded this blinds image slideshow as a free widget because you guys have to add some free widgets, you know, per the assessment. So I'll add those in during when I show you the assessment, but that's why I'm not adding in the Facebook like button right now, even though normally I would, because it's in my mock-up. I will, however, add in the YouTube logo that I have. Whoops. Which is in my CC library, which I accidentally closed. Here we go. And I'm going to stack these logos a little bit differently because this Twitter is a little bit longer than it was in my original mock-up. So I added my YouTube logo, and then I will add the Facebook like button when I do the assessment portion. We'll just pretend that my footer's fine. All right, so I'm going to save this. And again, I'm going to show you what it looks like on my, I guess, my portfolio page. So here we go. All of my things are on here that I put in, but I don't have navigation yet. So navigation in Muse is so easy to do compared to creating navigation in Dreamweaver. Muse actually made a widget for your navigation. So if you click on the widgets library, and go to menus, you have two different options. You can do a horizontal or a vertical menu. I am going to do a horizontal menu, and I'm going to place it in my header area. If you were going to do a vertical menu, it would probably be placed, within the header running down into the body, because, that's just kind of how those vertical, depending on how many buttons you have, that's how many, that's kind of how vertical menus work. So I'm going to grab horizontal menu, and I'm just going to drag it out and click to place it. And you'll notice that it has all of the top menu items that are shown in my sitemap in my plan: home, portfolio, and contact. But it doesn't show the two pages coming off of my portfolio page, which are my print and my web. And I'm actually going to add a page off of my contact page too while I'm in here. It's going to be a thank you page that says, thank you for sending me an email. So what you want to do, let me just close up this little, get out of the way, is see this blue arrow right here? Those are all of your options for your widget. So if you click on that, it shows you menu type, top level pages. These are your top level pages, the home, portfolio, and contact. Or you can select all pages, and it will show the other pages always open. It's really up to you. I don't like it to be shown that way. I just like to do top level pages, and then when they click on them, there's the option to show it. Whoops. There we go. You can add an icon if you want. I'm not going to add an icon. Show right icon for sub menus. Horizontally center aligned. So yeah, and edit together. I find it easy if you click edit together, it will do all of your changes across the board for your menu. And when it defaults, it's kind of boring, as you can see. It's just a gray box. It's, I believe, Helvetica that defaults to. It defaults to Helvetica font. And, there's not a lot going on here. All right, so this is one of the weird things. So when you select your menu, it's going to select it as this one grouped thing, and you may think to yourself, oh, all right, I just need to ungroup this. However, in Muse, things don't work that way, and it's a little bit weird how you select things that are automatically grouped, such as these menus in Muse. You have to use what they call the click, click, click method. And I'm not even kidding you, that is what they call it. Seriously. I'm gonna resize this because again, I made my grid of my 12 columns. So I'm gonna kind of resize this. And you'll notice when I shrunk it, it shrunk all the buttons together. So when I select this, it shows menu, no states, a fill color. I'm going to change my fill color. I can't remember which this. Oh, I'm not changing this fill color. All right. I want to leave this one as blank. So I'm going to click on home, and that gets me to the box that has the gray fill color. This I'm going to change to black. And you'll notice it changes it across the board. Then I'm going to click again, and then again. And this is my normal state, which means I'm not selecting anything. Yeah, exactly. Home, click, 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 and click. Yeah, click your heels multiple times. And this is going to be one of these things where you're going to have to do this to kind of get the hang of this. Like, you can watch this a million times, but until you sit there and you do this, it's really not going to make sense what I'm saying. And then once you start to do it and you see and watch what you're selecting up here, you'll go, oh, okay, that makes sense now. So under normal, I want it to be black. At a rollover stage, though, I definitely don't want it to be this gray. I want to change the fill color. And you'll notice how it only changed this home. It's just giving me a preview of what each of these will look like at the rollover stage. And I clicked right here to get down to rollover. I'm going to change the fill to this like blue, this glowing blue I have right here. And I'm going to click on my label, and I want it to be black text. There we go. So that's my rollover. Next, for my mouse down, honestly, I never even noticed mouse down. It's one of those things where I think it just kind of like happens when you're not paying attention. Select it, mouse down. I want to change that color to, I guess, this grayish blue. And I'm going to click on where it says label until it shows me Helvetica and the font color. I'm going to change that to white. There we go. And then on active, active is when you're on that page. So this is what you want your navigation to look like when the user is on that page. If you always want the navigation to just be, you know, the same color, black, then when you're on that page, then you can just select it. And you'll notice I had to kind of like go back in and select the box to get the fill color. Let me just show you that one more time. So I had to click again. Now I'm in the states. I'm going down to active. Because I changed the font, I had label selected, which showed my fill as nothing, but you can obviously see that there's a dark gray fill. So I had to click on that dark gray box in order to bring up the dark gray fill to change. Again, a little bit confusing. And then for my active, I'm going to make it like the light blue. I kind of selected in here, but I'm going to change the font color to black. And I'm going to change the font of the entire thing, but I'll do that all together. So I'm going to click on this again. I want to change these fonts. I'm going to click on home. I'm going to click on text tool. I'm going to change Helvetica to a web font, because remember, I want to make sure that I'm using web fonts, and I'm going to actually use this Source Sans Pro font as the basis of my fonts, basically. I'm going to do Source Sans Pro black, and you'll notice it changes all of them. And if I open up the text dialog over here in the sidebar, I can make them all capitalized, and I can also change the font size. I'm going to change it to probably 18. Definitely want to make sure the users can read my navigation. All right, so I want to double check what this looks like. So I'm going to go over and look, and you'll notice that I have to change the fonts. This is why I double check. I have to change the fonts in each of my states. It kind of defaulted to Helvetica throughout, and it only changed the font in the main setting, not in the active setting. Is that all caps option in other programs? Yes, it is. If you're in, if you are in the text edit box in any of your programs and you see the both uppercase T's, it changes your font to all, whatever you have selected, to all caps. No worries. Hey, I'm here to help. All right, so let me go through, again, I'm going to have to go through the different states. So normal, the font is changed. Rollover, double check, the font is changed. Mouse down, the font is changed. Watch, it's just going to be active. Active, the font is not changed. All right. Source Sans Pro, black. There we go. All right. And I'll save that. So now I can preview my my navigation, see what it looks like. If you go to the preview, because if you're in the actual pages, it's only gonna show you what it looks like on the active and what the other ones don't look like. If you want to actually see how your navigation works with your rollovers and make sure your colors look okay, go to preview. That's gonna be the best way to tell. You can kind of see for a brief second the mouse down. You can also see that the color for the page I'm on is a little bit lighter than the hover. So I might want to, maybe I'll want to make that even, or maybe I'll make the hover a little bit of a darker blue. I don't know. I mean, it really matches. I don't need to get that crazy right now. But you can see the different stages, and if you watch for a brief second, you can see the mouse down when I click. There we go. What if the active box is gone? You mean in your menu items? Oh, when it comes to, just not having it active, what you would then do is you would set your active to have all the same properties as normal. So you would have to actually go in and you would need to change those properties in active to exactly what normal looks like. And then it will just stay the same no matter if you're on that page or not. Because the way Muse defaults it is it does give you, no matter what, it gives you 4 stages of your buttons. All right. So there's a couple of different ways that I can, you'll notice in Photoshop, I also put the navigation down in the footer of my site. Yeah, you could, but it's still going to have the font there. And if you remove the fill, I know what you're saying, it will just show up as blank. I'll kind of show you what I mean. So let me go to active and just set it as nothing. See, it just makes it nothing. Because it's always gonna, it's not actually like sitting on top of the other layer, like it's a layer. It kind of makes it its own thing. Let me see if there we go. So you would have to kind of mirror the state of normal in order to kind of not have an active state, which is a little bit of a whole process, but it'll have the same effect. All right, so to place the menu in my footer, what I can do is I could just basically make a copy of my menu and bring it down here. And if I want it to always look like it doesn't have a background, for each of the states, I can go in and just remove the background color. And I would also have to change the font color in each of the states. So this is one way I can do this. Label, there we go. Normal rollover. Ugh. Come on. There we go. All right. Like I said, click, 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 click to get in there. Wait. There we go. All right. Mouse down. Leave was white already and active was black. So I gotta click right in here where oh, all right, color black. So this is one way that I can do this. And you can see when I kind of drag it up here, it doesn't have a background anymore. It's just got white text. And I can turn off the all caps if I wanted. And that'll make it look more like the second set of links in my footer. I would probably still want to, I would probably at this point want to have a rollover effect for the text though. Just so I can see that they're links. Do something like that. Let's preview this. Refresh your preview. You can refresh your preview right within Muse. All right. Portfolio is not rolling over for some reason. Oh, because I'm already on the page. Okay, that makes sense. So that's one way that you can kind of make a copy of your navigation and put it down in the footer. The other thing that you can do is you can literally type out these words and create hyperlinks with them. So I'm going to show you how to do that next. So let me delete this menu. And I would want to definitely mirror the font that I'm using up here. So I am going to draw a text box just with my type tool. Probably start right here. And go to Source Sans Pro, black, 18, color white, and I'll type in home. And then I'm going to select the word. And right up here where it says hyperlinks, and you can see add or filter links. I'm going to click on this, and all of my pages are already in here. So all I have to do is click on home, and it adds a hyperlink. But you'll notice it also does that 90s blue link with the underline. So what you're going to want to do is select it again and click on hyperlinks right here and go to edit link styles. And I want it to be white at normal stage. I do not want it to be underlined. I don't ever basically want it to be underlined. At hover stage, it can be that blue. Visited, it can just stay white. And active, it can just be white. And I'm going to save this as my default link style right now. Or actually, I'll name this, I'll make a new style and I'll call it menu footer. There we go. And what I can do to make sure that I maintain consistency is I'm going to select the box, the text box. I'm going to hold down Option and start to drag and hold down Shift. And I'm going to make a copy of that box. I'm going to select it, type out portfolio, select the word, and I need to change the hyperlink. I'm going to have to manually go in and select portfolio, but you'll notice it retained all of the same properties look-wise as the home did. And then I'm going to do the same thing, make a copy, contact, and change the link to my contact page. And then I'm going to have to visually center these. So this is a little trick that I have to make things consistent space-wise. So I'm going to just make a, whoops, that was not what I meant to do. Draw a box between these two words, and I'm going to fill that box just with red. And make a copy of it. Bring it right to the end of the word portfolio, and then move contact. Now I know that they're centered evenly. Little trick of the trade. And save it again. Preview it. Refresh my page. Home portfolio contact. And I would probably line this up, if I haven't already, with the P and Pixelate. Probably easier for me to line up the logo like this. There we go. Just so it's visually aligned. It's sometimes, you know, if you're ever having trouble with that, make sure you definitely have both things selected, because sometimes in that one of the things isn't locked. That's usually when my align is not working correctly. All right, so let me save this. All right, so at this point, I have taken care of, let me go to my little checklist. Creating a master page based on my design. I've named my page. I've created a second page. I've created a header that has a logo in it. I've added an interactive menu and used different color states for normal, rollover, mouse down, and active. I've included a footer. And using public domain images are your own. I've located 4 pictures. These images should connect to the viewer. I'm going to place them in a folder. And then add the download text to the home page. All right, so I need to add some text to the home page to complete part 2. So let's go back into Muse. So my master page is pretty much done at this point. So again, make sure I have it saved. And I'll just close out my preview for now and go over into my home page. And remember I told you how it's going to automatically, things are going to start to automatically resize in your body area in your page. It can be a little bit frustrating to work in this cramped area and keep trying to drag things in and out of the area to try to resize your page. So I'm going to give you a little trick. Take your rectangle tool and just draw a rectangle that gives you a little bit of room, and then fill that rectangle with some sort of an obnoxious color so you don't forget to delete it when you're done. So this will kind of just, you know, give you some room to work in, because it can get like a little bit frustrating when you're trying to like add things, you know, over and over again to your to your page, and it's not resizing until you draw the text box and everything else. Oh, yeah, it does. It kind of, yeah, exactly. It stretches the belly. Like eating lasagna before Thanksgiving. So, I've been watching Friends, and I always love their Thanksgiving episodes when Joey sits there and he wants to eat all the food at Thanksgiving, and the episode where he eats the whole turkey. And he's like, no, I got to eat all the chips. Got to get the belly ready. It's basically the same thing. Oh, nice. You're lucky then. All right, so I need to add some text to my homepage. I'll just download and use the text that they have here. the copy for the home page. Make my life a little bit easier instead of finding lorem ipsum. All right, so create this as a header style 1. Design your future. Create this as a paragraph style. Good design inspires and motivates people. So this is my header. Design your future. I'm gonna go in, whoops, to Muse, and I'm gonna draw a text box, and I don't want it to be, probably don't want it to be larger than 1,000 pixels, honestly. I don't want it to be Arial. I want to follow my, there we go. I'm going to center it and paste. Design your future. And I need to center this on the page. So there's not much that I can select to center this on the page. So what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to draw a little rectangle the entire width of my page, and I'm going to make it black again so I don't forget to delete it. I'm going to select that, hold down Shift, and select my text box, go to Align, and I'm going to center my text box right on that page, and then delete that rectangle. Design your future, that's my headline. And then I body copy, this is going to be my paragraph. And you'll notice how it says, create this as a header 1 style. So once I've come up with, you know, a 100 pixels, I guess is my size I'm going to do. I'm going to go to character styles, and I'm going to create a new style from this attribute. So I have all of this text selected. I'm going to click create new style, double click where it says character style, and I'm going to name it H1 header. And I'm going to give it, you can leave it as span. Next, I'm going to draw another text box, not as wide. So I'm going to go from this guide to this guide. And again, I'm going to change my font to Source Sans Pro to regular. And I'm going to make my font 16-point type because nothing in my body copy should be smaller than 16-point type in my site. And I'm going to copy this text. And you'll notice it doesn't add in this extra space between my paragraph. I'm going to need to fix that. So I'm going to go to text, and right here where it says, or you can either do space before or space after. I'm going to do space after. I want to add some space after my paragraph. I'm going to add in maybe 12. That looks good. And I'm going to keep it left justified. So I've got my text right there. Perfect. And when I delete this rectangle, you can see it then resizes the page based on the amount of copy I have. And let's say I want to move this text box down a little bit, it's going to resize my page, see? So I can give a little bit of breathing room between my elements. And I'll preview what I've done. That looks good. So I'm going to go back into my home page, and again, I'm going to select this copy. I'm going to go to character styles, and now I'm going to add another style. And I'm going to name this one body. So that way, whenever I'm doing body copy in my site, I will make sure that it follows this style that I've laid out that I like for consistency, exactly, because I want consistency throughout my site. and save it again. All right, so at this point, let me see. This is, I've added that downloaded text to use on, whoops, to use on your homepage. That should be part of this one. All right, next I need to name my Muse file part 1, part 2. So I'm going to copy this naming convention. Before I do this, I'm going to make sure that my site is saved, file. You know, if I can't click save site, my site has been saved. So I'm going to do a file save site as at this point, and I'm going to leave this working site folder. I'm going to go into week 1. I'm going to make a folder called assignment part 2. I'm going to name my site based off of the naming convention I need to use. So we'll call it S. McNamara and hit save. And then I am going to close this out because you'll notice now I'm no longer working within my work here site. So I'm going to close out my whole site after I do that. And I should now have my site in 2 different places, my working site that I'm always working in and the version that I saved for my assignment. You can open it up and make sure it looks correct. And make sure you preview it before you upload it. You can preview it in the preview button, but if you want to see what it looks like in a browser, you can do preview site in browser. It'll take a little bit longer than the preview. Excuse me. And it'll open it up in whatever your default browser is, and you can check it out. There you go. Now you can make sure that your links are working. Oh, and I forgot. Here's a good reason why thank you. Here's a good reason why you should preview it in the browser. I forget to add the hyperlink for my YouTube channel. So I'm going to go to youtube.com. Oh, Pixelate Design. I don't remember our YouTube channel. How awful is that? Oh, I was correct. All right. And I'll grab that URL. Go back into Muse, go back into my master page. Actually, I'm going to work on my working site. I almost did what I told you not to do. Close up my site. Go into my working site. There we go. Go into my master page. Click on YouTube and add a hyperlink. So I'm going to click add or filter links, and right up here where it shows this search plus, I'm going to copy in my URL and hit enter. Then what I want to do is click on hyperlinks, and I want to open this link in a new tab or window. Because YouTube is an external site, I don't want people to open the YouTube site and now they're no longer in my website and they have to hit the back button a whole bunch of times to get back to my website. It's really good if you are sending somebody to a site that's not like your portfolio page or your contact page or your home page, that you have them open up a link in a new tab. So use that for all of your social media icons. That's really important for just good SEO. And save my working site, do a file save site as, go back to that site for week 1, assignment part 2, and save it there as well. So that way I upload the correct site. And you know what, if you want, you can just upload just your Muse site to me this week. You don't have to send me all of your images. That's okay. You know, towards the end when you actually submit your site, you will have to do that. But for this, it's okay. I mean, they'll show up missing on my end, but they should display okay. So I'm not going to be that crazy. If you find it easy to just upload the whole site with the images and everything intact, that's fine as well. But I won't take off points if you don't upload with the images this week. And while I'm in the master page, there's another good thing that you should probably do. The logo. You know how most websites, when you click on the logo, it brings you back to the home page? I'm actually going to set up my logo to do that. So I'm going to click on my logo in my header, and I'm going to click on add links and have that go back to my home page. I'm going to hit save, and then I'm going to have to do the same thing again. I'm going to have to do file, save site as, and save that as my working site. It really is confusing to have two sites, but where they want you to name your assignments and your assessments differently, it's really the only way I can think of for you not to have multiple files of your site that don't mirror each other, and then you find out, like, you start working out of the site from week 1 when you're in week 3 and you're like, oh no, half of the stuff isn't there. So it's really the only way I can think of is to constantly be working out of this working site, have everything correct before you save it. But you know, sometimes there's going to be times where you notice something after you've already done a save as, and you're going to have to go back in. So it's kind of good that I'm showing you how to work within the two different sites. All right, so let's do a file, preview site in browser, and let's see how this works. So I'm on my home page. I can check my rollovers seem to be working. If I go to YouTube, it opens up in a new tab. This probably doesn't, because I don't think that oh, it does. That opens up in a new window. Perfect. My portfolio page shouldn't have anything on it yet except for my navigation. Same with my contact page. And you'll notice that when I click on portfolio, it's not giving me the drop down. So I'm going to have to fix that in my navigation menu. So let me go in my options, and I'm going to turn off all pages. Let me preview this. I always forget the way it does this. Oh, there we go. Okay, all pages. All pages is the way to go. It always throws me off that it shows them. And here's where this drives me bananas. Why does this look so different than the top menu? I don't know. So I'm going to have to extend this because I want it to be the same width. And I'll have to do it for both items. Probably easier if I zoom in on this. And change the font. I'll just do bold. And I'm just going to leave this like this for now. I would probably change the fill color. Take off the stroke. I don't think you need a stroke here. Take off the stroke. And I wish you could change them both at the same time, but you can't. All right, so that's a little bit better. Pretty web. All right, not as bad. You know, I would normally get a little bit more detailed with that, but I want to make sure that we can do the other stuff for the assessment today. All right, so save this. All right, so we'll pretend that everything is exactly how I want it to be. I've downloaded and I've saved it. It's saved correctly. I am now going to put part 1 and part 2 together into a folder. So, and I'm going to name that folder DES assignment 1, my first and last name, honestly, will be the easiest way. So you can just kind of take off the part 2. And put these in here. You would zip this, so right click and compress it and upload the zip file. So you should have part 1, which is your PDF and your PSD file, and part 2, which is your Muse file. Although I think you only need to submit your PDF file to me. But if you send me your PSD file, that's fine as well. You know, if you just want to keep everything together, I'm not going to be mad if you send me extra files. Just make sure that you actually have submitted the file type that I need. So you'll make sure that everything matches, you've done everything on your checklist, you know, it looks good, submit it. Then you'll move on to the assessment, which is adding in that slider widget and a third-party plugin. So for this assessment, we're going to have a slideshow slider placed on our homepage with those images that you found in your assignment. I don't know why you find your images in your assignment if you're going to use them for your assessment. As long as you find the images and they're there in the assessment, that's okay. I'm not going to be like, why aren't your images that aren't placed in this file uploaded? Don't worry. I'm not gonna be mad if I don't see them in the assignment and I see them in the assessment. All right. So this is the link to that Muse third-party widget thing. You want to filter it with free because you definitely don't want to be paying for these. The 2 that I thought were the easiest to use were the Facebook like button, and I didn't end up doing the scroll to top, but if you have a lot of ad copy, you could do that. But this blinds image slideshow was actually pretty cool, so I downloaded this one. And that will fulfill the requirement of having a slideshow slider, but you also need to have that second widget as well. So if you're going to use that slideshow slider, download the Facebook like button while you're doing it. Just make your life easier. And use them both. So let's get back into Muse. And again, I'm working out of my working site. And I need to add these items to my home page. So this is where drawing that rectangle will come into play, just so I have a little bit more room. I don't want to be placing things accidentally on top of my text box. And filling that with an obnoxious color so I don't forget to delete it. All right, so once you follow the prompts to download your widget, it's actually really easy. You just click get this widget and then click download. It's really simple to do this. You'll unzip it and put that widget in that working folder. So I have both of them right here. I have that image slideshow one, and it looks like a .mulib, and then I have that Facebook like button. So you're going to go back into Muse, and you may think to yourself, all right, so they'll be in my widgets library because that would make sense. Or I add them into my widgets library because that would make sense. But this is Adobe, and sometimes Adobe does things that don't make sense. So what you need to do is open up Library and add them in here. I already have them in here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete them and add them in again so I can show you how I do it. And if you don't see Library over here, just go to Window, Library, which is different from your CC library. Yes, Adobe is a dummy sometimes. I'm going to use that. I am going to definitely use that. And I will say one of my awesome students said Adobe is a dummy every single time I use it. I like that. All right. So once you have library open, there's a little icon down here next to the question mark for why that says import Muse library. So you're going to click on that, and it's going to open up a dialog box, and you're going to want to navigate into where you have saved those widgets. So if you were working out of your working site, it's probably in your recent places, widgets, and you're going to open up the folder and select and just hit open each library. And it's going to import it in. And it'll take a couple of seconds. And then just hit OK. And do that for your next one. Oh, la, 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 la. There we go. All right. So the Facebook like button, I'm going to add that. Really? Down here, but I'm going to do that within my master page. So why don't we do that one first? So you're going to open up the folder that says Muse Great Facebook Like button, and you'll navigate down to where it says Facebook Like button widget. And the same as your other widget, your navigation, you're just going to drag it out. It's going to look huge, and you're going to be like, what the heck is this thing, this big grape thing? But once you place it, you'll see that it kind of starts to resize itself. So it's also going to default to this Muse Grape URL, and you're not going to want that to happen. So if you guys are adding that Facebook like button, what I would do is I would add the Facebook URL to the Independence University Facebook page. I am going to add in my business's Facebook page. Just right here. And again, to add that in, you'll see that there's a little blue arrow right here. I'm going to click on the blue arrow, and that's where all my options are. So I'm going to delete out the default one and copy and paste in the new one. You can change the button sizes from small to large. I'm going to leave it as small. And layout, you can do standard. Let's see what that looks like and share. Button only, like and share. Or box count, button count. I'm going to leave it as button only because then it kind of mirrors the other ones that I have here. And this box is going to seem huge, but you can resize these things. Widgets are just a little bit weird when you try to resize them. See what I mean? They don't like to resize well. I've found that about widgets. Widgets are very picky when it comes to sizing them. Whatever. So, you know, if you're having trouble resizing it, that's fine. It's like this bounding box is ginormous for some reason, and they never work correctly. All right, so let's save this, and I want to see how it opens this up. I hope it opens up in its own tab or its own little page like it did last time. File, like it did with the Twitter. Preview site and browser. Okay. Oh, good. Okay, that's cool. That works. I like that. It's always good to double check things that it looks exactly how you want it to look. All right, so now back to my home page. I'm going to add in a this widget slideshow. I'll show you how to do this one first, and then I'll show you how to do the slideshow that's already available in Muse, so you can see both ways. So this is that slideshow that I downloaded. I guess I have an option of 2 images, 4 images, or 6 images. You guys need 4 images, so you might as well, if you do this, select the 4 image one and just drag it out, place it, and add a file. So I'm going to navigate over to my images. I think I had them here. I'll do this one. I don't even remember what these images are that I put in here. I think the pictures I took 2 years ago of like the beach. Oh, come on. Come on. Add file. Then add file. Ugh. Widgets can be finicky. This one. I have this one in twice. This one. All right, make sure all the numbers look different. And I don't want the background color to be black because that really stands out like a sore thumb. So I'm going to change that to none. None background. Number of blinds. Oh, that's pretty cool. You can change this. That's pretty neat. How big the gap is. All right. Pretty awesome. And resize it. That's weird. Oh, all right. That got weird for a second. And delete out my rectangle. And let's check this bad boy out. Let me save it. I'm just going to preview it in here. Yeah, it's pretty cool. Oh. That is pretty neat. Pretty neat widget. I wish it wasn't white though. I thought I changed it to none. Let me see. Check my options. Oh, I changed it to white by accident. None. Oh, so it gives none as an option, but you can't actually use none as an option. Interesting. That is a lie. All right. Well, white. White, I guess it is. Adding an even number of blinds will cause a rip in the container. Use odd numbers to avoid that rip. Interesting. All right. So there we go. I guess I'm stuck with the white background, but that's fine. Exactly. I always enjoy the chat. I'm always happy when people are in here with me. I'm not talking to myself for 2 hours. I mean, I can do it, but I get a little nutty if I do. All right, so here is that that widget third-party slideshow. So that's how you set that one up. So I'm going to delete that one, and I'm going to show you how to set up the widget slideshow that's already available in Muse. So again, I'll draw my rectangle, just kind of extend the size of my page. close up this library, and that slideshow that's already in Muse is in the widgets library, and it's in the one called slideshows. All right, so there's a couple of different slideshows in here. This basic one, what I will tell you is that will take up the entire screen. Even though there's one that is called full screen, for some reason the basic one always seems to take up the whole screen as well. There's a blank one, there's a lightbox one, and then there's one that just has thumbnails. I kind of like the lightbox one, and I also like the thumbnail one. So I'm going to show you the thumbnail one. Why not? So when you drag that one out, to add the images in, you'll click on this little folder that says Add Images, and you can go through, find your images, and just select them. So I'm holding down the Command key to select, oh, you can only select ones that are in the same folder. Good to know. So put them all in the same folder. Here we go. And then you can have it autoplay or not, resume after 3 seconds, or just play once, enable swiping. You can have captions or not have captions. I don't want captions. You can have a counter. Thumbnails, edit together. All right, looks good. And then this thing, again, you have to do the click, click, and click. So let's say that I want this to just be as wide as this column. I need to click on it, click again, and then I can resize it, and then I can grab each of these pieces of the counter and just move them over. So it's a little bit weird. Save this again. Preview this slideshow. And, oh, I forgot to remove my box. And again, you can click, click, and click and change the font, which you should probably do so it matches. Oh, I always think I'm in like my browser, but I'm in Muse. So you would click down here under slideshow until you get to the box. Click on the font. Change it to the same font that you're using. Go. And you can even change the background color of the squares and what they look like on normal, hover, all of the same options like you did with your navigation. Delete your little box. And save. So once you have your slideshow placed, probably I would place it underneath text. Give yourself a little bit of room between your elements. Save your working site. Double check that you have all of the things that are needed for the assessment. So we have a slideshow slider with the images. We added a third-party plugin. So now I need to save this as the assessment. You can move the thumbnails. Yes, you can. So if you do the same thing, click, click. Now I've got the thumbnail container selected. I can resize this. If I start to close them up, I can have the thumbnails go in one row. Open it up and it's 2 rows. So I can move them and then select this and move it over again and maybe make this bigger. You just have to kind of do everything separately. Select this. Move it down, and you'll notice this is what else is a little bit annoying about Muse. Whatever is your last element, it's literally going to put your footer right on top of that last element. So if you don't like that and you're like, I need a little bit of space here, draw a rectangle box. Just make sure it doesn't have a color, and open it up. Oh, come on. Oh, put it outside of your element. There we go. No, do what I said. All right, there we go. So that'll give you a little bit of space at the bottom. Blank rectangles. It really is. Blank rectangles will help you to give you some spacing at the bottom when you need it. And if you're trying to figure out like what it is, just, you know, kind of select everything until you can find that blank rectangle box that you have. Just again, another little trick that I've kind of learned. Yes, Command Z, your best friend. It really is. Save it. Again, make sure you've saved that working site before you do a save as for your assessment. So now what we'll do is kind of the same thing that we did for the assignment. Copy the naming convention. Do a file, save site as. Go to week 1. Make a folder. Name it DES 305. Assessment 1. That's McNamara. And name your file, your name. And for this one, you might want to include your images. I mean, if it's really big and they won't upload, that's okay. But you might want to try including your images in this one because there will be images on this assessment. And then again, you can see why I keep all of my files so organized, because there's so many things that we do in this course. So again, compress your assessment and upload that zip file. And this is, you know, that third-party plugin is 15 points. And when it says enhances the user experience, that's why if you picked, and I was describing this yesterday, if you pick something that's like deactivating the right click, like why? How does that enhance my user experience? You know, doing a custom page preloader really doesn't enhance my experience. Doing a 1990s counter does not enhance my experience. You know, like there's only really like a few things that you can really use in the free option. The Facebook like buttons one, the slideshows one. I don't think you should do gradient text because it's not 1998. I guess if you wanted to do a night sky background, but does that really go with Independence University? Like, you know, stop and think about, you know, what you're designing here. So that's why I said that Facebook like button and that slideshow really are, yeah, exactly. What's this? Yeah, I like that. Those are probably your two best options for this. So upload, submit your assignment before Saturday, you will be golden. If you've kind of watched this and then you're going to start working, my suggestion to you is, you know, if you work better working along with a YouTube video, sometimes I work better working along with the YouTube video, you know, put YouTube on your tablet if you have one. You can watch the video on your tablet while you work along on your laptop, so that way you can kind of pause and you don't have to flip back and forth between your browser and Muse. You can kind of just watch a different screen while you're working. Might be a little bit helpful to you. All right, so that concludes our live session for today. Again, if you guys have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to shoot me an email and I will get back to you as soon as I can. Email is definitely the best way to get in touch with me. If it's a little bit late at night, I am located Eastern Standard Time. I'll try to get back to you the next morning. I'm definitely up early. I have a 3-month-old, so she's up at 6, no matter what, to get that first bottle. So you might you might get some really early emails from me if she's up earlier than that, or if I'm up earlier than that. Sometimes I get up at 5 just so I can have a nice quiet cup of coffee to myself. So you might see some really early emails. So if you email me late at night, you'll probably get an early response. All right, so thank you so much for coming, and I hope to see you next week. Have a good night.